So this week we've got a few things to talk about before we get into VanTech stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is I'm thinking about doing a live stream of VanTech Tuesday instead of pre-recording it because, well, we're all more accessible these days than we've ever been, probably in front of a computer or at least having your phone in your hand. And I think maybe I could be more informative, more interactive with you if it was live, rather than do these videos that are kind of delayed for a week or two. So my plan is, if it's a positive response to this, so please do let me know in the comment section down below, that every Tuesday morning at 11 AM I would do a live stream for an hour, answering as many questions, VanTech questions or whatever, or just tech questions as possible in that hour. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think. The next I want to talk about is I'm thinking of doing more simplistic videos, like for example just like a lot of people have been asking about wiring two batteries together. So it would literally be me putting two batteries, making up cables, wiring them together and showing you how best to do that. For example, it might also be upgrading the headlamp bulbs to LED bulbs and how simple it is, and that would be it. It wouldn't be part of a vlog, it would just be that, like under 5 minutes probably, and that would be it. So if you're into them, if you think that would be useful, let me know in the comment section down below as well. Now the next one is I need to apologise for not posting out stickers. I did post out a batch of stickers, and I've also posted a few out since then, but two, 3 weeks ago. Some of you have not received them, and obviously some of them we haven't even got to a post office because for the last 2 weeks we've been nowhere near a post office, and it, unfortunately, in my view of the current situation, it doesn't count as essential travel to travel. I think it's about 12-15 miles away to the nearest post office to where we are now. So if you don't mind, if you've not received a sticker, I'm going to do two things. You will always get your sticker, maybe a few other things as well when we're able to go and post them in the future, or if you prefer I can give you a full refund. So please let me know in the comments section down below if you haven't received a sticker and you would like a refund, or send me an email or reply to the email that was through the PayPal link or something. Just let me know. And I am really sorry about that, but hopefully you can understand right now it's not really a something I'd like to try and argue with somebody why I'm making a journey to go into a post office to post stickers like that. So the next thing I want to talk about now, before we get into the VanTech Tuesday thing, is quite a serious little subject, and it's to do with van dwellers. So either somebody who may, for example, have been kicked out of the house, they had a van or they bought a van and have spent years making it their home, or like us who have kind of retired early to go and enjoy van life. We're kind of both in the same boat. Whichever way we started out van life, we're living van life right now, and it is difficult. We are stationary, we cannot move our van. If we go out and drive the van, potentially we could get a fine for it or something like that. We have yet to go out to find LPG, which we probably will need in the next few days, and that is something that I'm going to have to argue with somebody if they do stop me, and put up with anything that there could be abuse by some people out there, which we've seen other people get. So what I was trying to do is use the comments section down below. We've been offered lots of places to go and stay, and so far, like I say, we're okay here. It's not a problem. Other people are not so lucky and not so fortunate to have somewhere that's safe, or that's, for example, near running water, somewhere where they can empty the toilet, do the laundry, get food supplies or something like that. So I'm asking you, if you are in need of somewhere safe to stay, please comment down below. And if you've got somewhere where you can offer people safe to stay on your land, maybe driveways as well if it comes down to that, but somewhere for long term, somewhere that no one's going to interfere with the vans or mess around with people or anything like that. If you can basically offer these people somewhere to stay, then obviously use the comments section down below to communicate with each other, and hopefully then we can help people out and get everybody into a safer place to sit this one out for a while. So thanks for that one, and I hope you get sorted if you are currently looking for somewhere, and hopefully somebody can help you in the comment section below. And the last thing I want to say, and this is in no way me excusing myself for anything, it's just really to let you know, because of the last few things I spoke about, I've had over 2,000 messages just in the last 3 or 4 days. I am working through them. I will get to all the people who have asked questions and reply to them. I'm not forgotten about you. Obviously things are just a little bit difficult right now. We've bought a new van. Our new van has lots of problems, and I'm trying to fix it and make it so I can live in this van long term and be off grid. And getting to your questions, unfortunately, has been a little bit of a second priority to that, but I will get through them. Right, that said, let's get into VanTech Tuesday. So the first question this week is, how much solar and battery do I need to sustain myself in my van, just like you guys are, so I can isolate from my elderly parents, as I need to run my diesel heater in my van? And this is a tricky one, isn't it? Because there may be a lot of people now, I've even seen it in the news, where people are using camper vans on driveways to isolate from other family members because they need to go out to work every day, or they're part of the NHS kind of helping system right now, or for whatever reason they don't want to be around, you know, people who have health conditions and maybe infect them. And that's just a fantastic opportunity that a van offers. You know, it is great, but the absolute thing, especially this time of year, we're having snow where we are at the moment. It's down to -2. It's really cold in the van, and a lot of people obviously cranking up the diesel heater, and that's going to kill your battery, especially if you've just got one battery or whatever. So the way I look at it is, you should be looking at least 400 watts of solar and at least 200 amp hours of battery, and hopefully, as long as you haven't got that diesel heater cranked on all day long, that should at least give you the opportunity on a really good day to fully charge your batteries. And maybe on the really bad days like today, where it's snowing and it's overcast, it will give you something of a way of a top up. It's certainly working for us that way, and it's keeping us sustained at a time when obviously I can't just go and hook in on a campsite because my batteries are going flat or anything like that. So yeah, that's as much as advice as I can give you. Another way would possibly just to run your engine. I know it sounds awful, and I know in my circumstance right now, if I did that, I would make it obvious what I was doing and maybe draw attention to where I am. But you know, the worst case is I'd rather have a bit of questions off people. What are you doing here? Why is your engine running? Than for us to be freezing cold in the van. And that's just the way it is right now, unfortunately. The next question is, how can I wire my leisure and starter batteries together to keep both topped up while the van is parked up? And again, this could be because you're using it as a, you know, a kind of like an isolation room or something like that, or it could just be that you've parked your van up, you're in the house, and you don't want your batteries to ruin, because they will do. Unfortunately, the longer you leave lead acid batteries, whether that's AGM or wet cells, to just kind of, you know, with no power in them, eventually they will deplete, and if you leave them for a long time, like, you know, 3 or 4 months, it could well damage that battery and it wouldn't recover to its, you know, same sort of charge level as it did before. It is possible for you to link both batteries together. The only kind of warning I'd have on that is, say for example, you might have an AGM battery in your leisure battery, in just a normal starter battery is more than likely going to be lead acid. The charge profiles of some solar charge controllers, mine in particularly, has a set kind of charge profile. So it expects there to be AGM batteries on there, not lead acid batteries. And if you choose the wrong charge profile or try to charge 2 different types of batteries up, potentially you could cause damage, because one battery might prefer a larger charge voltage or current than the other type of battery. So whilst yes, you can connect them up, it depends, and I can't say for sure, but it would depend on your charge controller. If it's got this kind of battery profile in there, how you would set that up. And it may well be that you alternate it. So you have maybe a week of everything connected to one battery and change the charge profile to, you know, lead acid for your starter battery, and then you reconnect it back to your leisure battery that might be AGM, and then for that week you change the profile and you call it an AGM. And that's as much really as I can offer if you've got no other way of hooking it up. If you've got obviously the ability to provide power to your van, then go and buy just a trickle charger or something like that for the van battery, and just let the solar panel charge your leisure battery, and just hook it up to your house if the van's near your house. Next question. I need to make cables to join my batteries. Can you suggest the best cable size, cable cutters, crimping tool and ends? Yeah, the ones we use seem to be fine, so I'll link them in the video description down below. It was 35mm cable I've used to connect batteries together. The cutters, just tin snips is what I used. The crimping tool I think was about £15 off Amazon, and it comes with the different sizes depending on the crimp ends you want. And again, I got an assortment of crimp ends in a box off Amazon for about £4 or £5 as well, so not that expensive really. But like I say, I'll link everything down below. Just in case you don't know as well, some people say, John, I can't find anything in your video description, it just says a few lines. There should be a little down arrow next to the end, and if you click that down arrow, it expands the video description so you can see more of the things that I put in the video description, which will include links to products if I've mentioned it like now. John, which inverter do you have and do you recommend it? I've got the Krager 2000 watt, and yes, I recommend it. Obviously the other van was sold as seen, so everything was left in that one, so I bought exactly the same inverter and I've installed it in this van. I'm using it that way. I know Greg's installed it in his. I know a few people have installed it and it works fine and everything as well. So I'll link 3 options to that one. I think there's a 1 kilowatt of 1500 and a 2 kilowatt. So I'll link those down in the video description as well. And like I say, they're quite cheap. They are not pure sine wave, they're modified sine wave. That's because I use them for appliances. I don't really charge my laptop or anything like that with it. However, Greg has charged some tech devices with them and he says it works flawlessly, much better than his pure sine wave inverter he used to have, which supposedly is better for it. So if you look at online reviews for this inverter I use, it gets really good ratings. So I guess you could use it for that way. Certainly works fine. It's quite efficient with power as well. Next question is, John, I want to install multiple USB and 12-volt sockets around my van. Should I individually wire them? So I'll wire from my battery or fuse box to each USB socket or 12-volt socket, or should I daisy chain them all? And I guess the real kind of question on this one is what you're going to plug into it. If you're going to plug lots of high power devices, you know, like laptop charger, fan heater, or lots of things that require a lot of power, then you need to individually wire them and have the wire to be rated for what you're going to be using on the end of it, with an appropriate fuse as well. However, if they're all going to be kind of like, you know, small power devices like USB, you could put, you know, basically, you know, 3 USB sockets all off one daisy chain and wire it back, and as long as it's only a phone charger or something, that's 2 amps, so that's 6 amps together. So you could put that on cable rated for 10 amp with a fuse rated for 10 amp, and the 3 of them would be fine, they'd be under that. So it's just a case of working out what's going to be plugged in together, so it's the maximum draw you would ever place in each of the devices if they're all put on, and the cable that was connected, if it was daisy chained, the one that goes back with the fuse, what's the maximum load on that fuse and cable, and therefore, you know, kind of like wire it appropriately. Right, this next one's a bit of a generic one now. I've had so many questions on this, but it all seems to fall along the same lines, and it's from motorhome and campervan and caravan users, and they're all basically having problems with solar panels that aren't giving a charge. So people are asking me, how do I kind of fault find this? So this is my quick way of working out with you remotely without seeing it, which is always difficult. How do you diagnose what's at fault if your solar panel's not giving your battery a charge? So the first thing I would do, I would go to your solar panel and disconnect the two cables out of the back of the solar panel. And then on a very sunny day, obviously to do all of this you need the weather to be quite stable, so each time you take a reading, the reading's as accurate as it can be based on the fact that nothing's changed. So 1 minute there's a big cloud there, next minute the sun's blaring on it. That's not going to help you diagnose the fault. If it's totally cloudy, it's not really going to be the right time to do it. If it's really sunny, that's probably the best time to do it. So with a multimeter, put it on volts, put it on something like 100 volts, and then put it across the two connections on the back of your panel and make a note of it. Obviously if it says minus 40 volts, 20 volts, flick them round just so you know which is positive and minus, and then obviously make a note of that reading. Now then hook it back together and then go to where those cables come into your solar controller and then take a reading. And if those readings aren't pretty much the same, within a couple of volts, if that, then there's probably a cable fault. So if, for example, the cables are reconnected up on the roof and they just come into the van, you're measuring that at the solar input side of your solar controller, and there's no volts there or something like that, and the chances are you've got a cable fault or a connection fault, either on they're called MC4s if they've done it correctly, the cable connections between all the solar controller parts, or it could just be that it needs tightening up at the screw end where it goes into the solar controller or something like that. Now if all that checks out and the same voltage that you had at the end of the solar panel cable is actually coming into the cable going into the solar controller, and that checks out okay, but there's still nothing coming out of your solar controller, then what I do is just hop over to the two connections next to it, the ones that go to your battery, and just measure them. And then go back to your battery, disconnect the solar controller from your battery and measure your voltage on your battery. And now basically look at the difference between the two. So say your battery might be 12.7 volts. What was the voltage on the end of the solar controller at the battery terminals? Was it exactly the same, 12.7 volts? Was there no volts there, or was it higher? And if it was higher, how much higher was it? And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. To charge a lead acid or AGM battery, you need to be looking at 14.3 to 14.5 volts. It can charge less than that. You can get anything over 13 volts. That's considered to be a lower charge rate. It could be, a dull day or not so sunny. But certainly when the sun's out in full swing, then you should be looking at over 14 volts as your charge voltage back to the battery from the solar controller. So if you're not getting that and the weather's perfectly sunny, then the charge controller might be faulty. If you measured the voltage of the charge controller and the battery and it's the same, then the charge controller is more likely to be faulty because it's not producing the charge current that it should be. It's just using the wires from the battery back to the charge controller to read the battery's voltage, and that's all it's doing. Now if you measured the voltage on the charge controller and it was like less than what you measured at the battery end, then it could also be a cabling issue, that the cable between the battery and the charge controller might be faulty. Either kind of just tighten up the ends or something like that. Check a fuse if there's an inline fuse in there, or the cables themselves could have broke, as you saw on one of my recent videos, straight from the manufacturer's wiring. Fair enough, my van's 5 years old. I've changed my van now. It's not the new van I had. It's 5 years old is the van we own now. And over that 5 years, one of these cables had basically, the crimp had failed and the cable had fallen out, and it was arcing and wasn't working that well. These things do happen. So yeah, just check your cables. And that's really as much as I could help remotely. Obviously if I'm there I can check it all out and take readings and I can do loads more things, but to try and help you remotely, that's about as best as I can offer really. And I think that's about enough for this video, because I've talked an awful lot about a lot of different things, and yeah, I need to get on with fixing my own van now so we can actually get some heat and stuff like that. So thank you so much for watching. Please do comment down below about any of the things I've mentioned, you know, about if you can offer people help, if you need help, about the advice being a live stream, would that be any good, or the one-off little videos, would those be okay as well? So leave in the comment section down below that. Obviously, if you've got any normal questions, VanTech questions, please do ask and I'll get around to them. And for now, just stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next video. You take care now. Bye.